They called him Penny, not because of his size, not because of his worth, but because of his shine. A small coin with a reflection so bright it caught everyone's eye. Penny Hardaway, the kid from Memphis who made basketball look like something softer, something poetic. He didn't just play, he glided. Every dribble, every no-look pass felt like a song the world hadn't heard before. Before the world called him the next Magic Johnson, before the commercials, before the fame, he was just a quiet boy with a basketball that never left his hands. He'd shoot until the sun went down, and when the streetlights came on, he'd still be out there, the sound of the ball echoing against the pavement like a heartbeat that refused to stop. Back then, nobody saw the future written in those cracks of the Memphis courts. Nobody knew that this shy, soft-spoken kid would one day carry the hopes of a city and then watch those hopes fall apart in front of him. Because that's the thing about magic. It doesn't warn you before it disappears. It dazzles you first. It makes you believe that maybe, just maybe, this time it'll last forever. And for a while, it did. Penny Hardaway wasn't just a player. He was a moment. A perfect blend of grace and power, confidence and calm. He had the height of a forward, the vision of a point guard, and the flair of a showman. When he stepped on the court beside a young Shaquille O'Neal, it felt like watching destiny unfold in real time. Orlando had found its magic again, and this time it had a smile. But life doesn't hand out fairy tales without fine print. Behind the bright lights and highlight reels, the same story that made Penny a legend was slowly turning into his undoing.
The fame came fast, the expectations even faster, and the one thing that could never keep up was his own body. One injury after another, one comeback that never quite stuck. Each time he rose, something else pulled him down, until the man who once looked untouchable was suddenly forgotten. Yet, this isn't a story about defeat. It's about the quiet truth hiding beneath every fallen star. That sometimes the dream changes shape. Sometimes greatness doesn't mean staying on the stage. It means learning how to stand again when the applause is gone. Tonight, we're not just remembering Penny Hardaway the player. We're remembering the boy who dreamed on cracked pavement, the man who carried a city, and the mentor who came home to lift up the next generation. Because even when the magic faded, the light never truly went out. It just found a new court and a new kind of purpose. So close your eyes and picture the glow of those Memphis streetlights again. A ball bouncing in the dark, a dream too big for its surroundings, and a story that, even now, still feels unfinished. This is the rise and fall of Penny Hardaway, a sleep story about talent, pain, and the kind of magic that never truly disappears. Before the lights, before the fame, there was Memphis. Not the glimmering, music-filled version people see on postcards, but the Memphis that raised warriors. A city of grit, of blues, of dreams built on cracked pavement and resilience. And somewhere in the middle of it all, a little boy named Penny Hardaway, though everyone just called him Penny. He lived with his grandmother, Louise Hardaway, in a small house that always smelled like love and struggle at the same time.
His mother had moved away for work, trying to make ends meet, so it was Grandma Louise who became his anchor. She didn't have much, but she had rules, prayers, and an unshakable belief that her grandson was meant for something greater. Every morning, before the sun even touched the rooftops, she'd whisper a quiet blessing over him. And every evening, when the streets got quiet, Penny would be outside with his basketball, his one constant companion. The sound of the ball on concrete became part of the rhythm of their neighborhood. Neighbors would peek out their windows and say, "That Hardaway boy's out there again." He wasn't loud. He wasn't cocky. He was just focused. Like he already knew that every bounce of the ball was a step towards something bigger. The court behind his grandmother's house wasn't much, just faded lines and uneven ground. But when Penny was out there, It felt like Madison Square Garden, like every dream he'd ever had was alive beneath his feet. He watched the greats, Magic Johnson, Isaiah Thomas, Dr. J, through grainy television screens. He studied how they moved, how they smiled even under pressure. But most of all, he studied how they made others feel. Because even as a kid, Penny didn't just want to play basketball. He wanted to make people believe again. And maybe that's what made him different. For Penny, basketball wasn't just competition, it was connection. It was art. Every dribble, every pass was a chance to tell a story. The story of a kid from Memphis who refused to be ordinary. His talent didn't stay a secret for long. By the time he reached Treadwell High School, people started showing up just to watch him play. The gym would fill up fast, and even those who couldn't get in stood by the doors just to hear the crowd react. They said he moved like silk, smooth, effortless, patient, like the game bent around him instead of the other way around. He didn't have to force anything. He just let the rhythm come to him. His passing was unselfish, his confidence quiet. There was no arrogance, just purpose.
And that made people feel something rare. They saw a young man who reminded them of everything beautiful about the game. Before money, before fame, before the noise. Just joy, just grace. Still, life in Memphis wasn't easy. Violence, poverty, and broken promises were part of the backdrop. Penny stayed away from trouble, but trouble always had a way of finding its way into good neighborhoods, good families, and good kids. Grandma Louise watched over him like a hawk, making sure he stayed out of the streets. She knew the world didn't always give second chances. She used to say, "Baby, don't you waste your gift. God gave you something special. You protect it." And he listened, because deep down, he believed her. Every day, his legend grew a little more. College scouts began whispering his name, Penny Hardaway, the kid from Memphis. He wasn't just another high school star. He was something else entirely. By the time he graduated, he was already being called one of the top prospects in the nation. He stayed close to home, choosing to play for Memphis State University, a decision that made the city proud. He wasn't chasing fame or spotlight. He wanted to put his hometown on the map. It was loyalty, the kind that would define him for the rest of his life. And for a while, it seemed like destiny was unfolding exactly the way it was meant to. But destiny always has a twist, because just when Penny's story was about to begin, something happened that nearly ended it all before it even started. One night, in the wrong place at the wrong time, Penny was caught in a robbery attempt. He wasn't involved. He was simply helping a friend. But a stray bullet found its way to his foot. It shattered bone, hope, and maybe even belief, all in one moment. The doctor said he might never play again, that the gift everyone thought was unstoppable might be gone forever. The news spread through Memphis like heartbreak. People prayed, fans wrote letters, coaches visited. But inside that hospital room, Penny sat in silence, staring at the ceiling, wondering if his story had already ended before it began.
For weeks, he couldn't move without pain. The boy who danced on the court now had to relearn how to walk. It was cruel irony. The same legs that had carried his dreams now refused to move. But Penny wasn't built to quit. Every day, he whispered the same words to himself, "I'm not done yet." And with his grandmother by his side, faith turned into fight. He started physical therapy, every stretch and every step a small victory. Pain became his teacher, and when he finally picked up a basketball again, the sound of the bounce echoed like redemption. The streets that once watched him rise began to whisper again, "He's back." But this time, something was different. He wasn't just talented anymore. He was driven. He'd tasted the edge of what it felt like to lose everything, and he refused to ever feel that again. When he finally stepped back onto the court for Memphis State, the crowd didn't just cheer, they roared, because they weren't watching a comeback. They were witnessing a resurrection. And Penny Hardaway, the boy who dreamed on a dusty court, was about to show the world that magic wasn't something you were born with. It was something you fought for. He'd overcome injury, doubt, and fear. But his real story hadn't even started, because soon fate would pair him with another young giant, and together they'd create something the NBA had never seen before. There are moments that divide a life, the before and the after. For Penny Hardaway, that moment came one quiet afternoon in Memphis. He wasn't at a club, or in trouble, or chasing fame. He was simply doing what good sons and grandsons do, helping someone else.
A friend needed help moving things into an apartment in a rough part of town. Penny didn't think twice. He wasn't scared of the neighborhood. He grew up around struggle. But that night, fate decided to test his future in the most brutal way. A group of men tried to rob the place. Words turned into chaos. And then a single gunshot cut through the noise. A bullet hit Penny straight in the foot. The kid who could glide like air couldn't even stand. It wasn't just pain. It was confusion. He looked down and saw blood where there should have been sneakers in motion. In that instant, everything he'd built, every dream that had grown from those cracked Memphis courts, shattered in silence. They rushed him to the hospital, and the city held its breath. The doctors worked quickly, but the damage was serious. He had torn ligaments, nerve trauma, the kind of injury that ends athletic careers before they begin. One doctor told him quietly, "You might never play again." The words hit harder than the bullet. For weeks, Penny was stuck in bed staring at the ceiling. He couldn't move without pain. He couldn't walk, let alone run. And for the first time in his life, the sound of a bouncing basketball, the one sound that always brought peace, was gone. He felt lost. He wasn't angry, just empty. It was as if destiny had teased him with greatness and then snatched it away before he could touch it. But the thing about Penny Hardaway, he never asked, "Why me?" He just whispered, "Not like this." He decided that if this was the way his story ended, it wouldn't end without a fight. Every day became a battle. Rehabilitation was slow, painful, and lonely. He couldn't jump, couldn't pivot. Even walking with crutches felt like punishment, but he showed up every single day. His grandmother, Louise, sat by his side during those long nights. She prayed, she encouraged, she reminded him of who he was. And in that small hospital room, surrounded by the hum of machines, a spark started to come back to life. He realized something profound. You can take away his game, but you can't take away his gift. The gift wasn't just in his legs. It was in his vision, his patience, his creativity. It was in the way he saw the floor before anyone else did, the way he made people believe in something better. So when the doctor said, "You'll walk again someday," Penny heard, "You'll play again soon." Weeks turned into months. Slow steps turned into cautious jogs. And one day, he took a basketball into the gym just to feel it in his hands again. The sound echoed off the walls. That hollow, rhythmic bounce felt like a heartbeat returning to life. With every dribble, every shot, his confidence began to rebuild. He wasn't the same player. He was stronger, hungrier, more aware of what the game truly meant. By the time he was cleared to return to Memphis State, something had changed. He no longer played for fame or scouts or applause. He played because he almost lost the chance too. And when he stepped back on the court for the first time, the gym went silent. You could feel the weight of the moment. A city that had almost lost its prodigy watched him take his first shot, and when it swished through the net, it wasn't just a basket, it was a resurrection. That season, Penny didn't just play, he dominated. He averaged nearly a triple-double, leading Memphis State to national recognition. His combination of size, skill, and poise made scouts go crazy.
They called him the next Magic Johnson, but this time the comparison didn't feel like pressure. It felt like destiny. Every pass was a message. Every game was gratitude. He played with a sense of peace, as if every moment on the court was borrowed time. And in a way, it was. The shooting could have ended him. Instead, it transformed him. It stripped away everything unimportant and left only what was real.
His love for the game, his loyalty to Memphis, and his quiet fire to make every second count. By his junior year, the NBA was waiting. He'd grown from the kid on the dusty Memphis court to a man who carried himself like a veteran before he'd ever played a professional game. He had confidence, not loud, but certain. The draft was calling, and fate, for once, seemed ready to reward him. On draft night in 1993, Penny's name was called, but not by the team that would define him. The Golden State Warriors selected him with the 3rd overall pick. But moments later, he was traded to the Orlando Magic, a team that already had a rising star named Shaquille O'Neal. And just like that, two young supernovas found each other. Two forces of nature, both larger than life, both hungry for greatness. The stage was set. The league was about to witness something it hadn't seen in decades, a new kind of showtime. He had survived what should have broken him, but now, standing beside a giant in Orlando, Penny Hardaway was about to discover that surviving pain was one thing. Surviving success would be another story entirely. When Penny Hardaway arrived in the NBA, he wasn't just another rookie trying to fit in. He was a revelation. The league had seen athletic guards before, but not like this. Not one who moved like silk and thought like a chess master.
In 1993, the Orlando Magic made a move that would change everything. They already had a young superstar in Shaquille O'Neal, a giant who could break backboards and bend games to his will. But what Shaq needed was balance. Someone who could slow the chaos down. Someone who could see the game the way he did, but from the outside. Enter Penny. At first, even Shaq wasn't sure. He had wanted Chris Webber, another big man like himself. But when he saw Penny play, when he saw the way he passed, the way he read defenses, it didn't take long to understand. They weren't just teammates. They were opposites that completed each other. The 1994 season felt like a dream. Penny's court vision was electric. No-look passes, perfect timing, a rhythm that turned fast breaks into art. Shaq dominated the paint. Penny orchestrated the flow. Together, they were unstoppable. Orlando became must-watch basketball. The crowd didn't just cheer, they believed. For the first time, it felt like the Magic could stand among the legends. Jordan was gone, the East was open, and these two kids looked ready to take it all. Then came 1995, the year the dream grew wings. Penny made the All-Star team. Fans voted him in with the kind of love usually reserved for veterans. His jersey flew off the shelves, and commercials turned him into a superstar. Lil Penny, voiced by Chris Rock, became a pop culture icon. Kids everywhere wanted to be Penny, and yet even as fame found him, his focus never wavered. He wasn't chasing cameras, he was chasing greatness. That season, the Magic did the unthinkable. They beat Michael Jordan's Bulls. The same Bulls everyone thought were untouchable. For a moment, it looked like the crown had new owners. But destiny has a strange sense of timing. The Magic reached the finals, and there, the dream began to crack. Against the veteran Houston Rockets, their youth showed. A missed free throw here, a bad rotation there, and suddenly, the fairy tale slipped through their fingers. Houston swept them. The confetti never fell for Orlando. Still, the world believed they'd be back. They were too young, too talented, too magical not to. But what no one saw was that the first fracture had already appeared, not in the team, but in fate itself. Because the higher you rise, the further there is to fall. The thing about magic is, it always feels endless, until the moment it isn't. For Penny Hardaway, that moment came quietly, not with a crash or a dramatic fall, but with a pain that started small, a twinge in the knee, a swelling that wouldn't go away, something that should have healed, but didn't. At first, he brushed it off. Athletes do that. They always think they're invincible. He played through it, taped it up, told himself it was nothing. But the body always tells the truth, even when the mind refuses to listen. In the 1997 season, that truth came crashing down, a devastating knee injury. One surgery, then another. Each time he came back, he moved a little slower, jumped a little lower, and smiled a little less. The game that once flowed through him like water started to feel like a struggle against time, and time always wins. Orlando felt it too. Without Penny at full strength, the team that once seemed destined for greatness began to unravel. Shaq left for Los Angeles, chasing rings and legacy. The Magic, once the future, became a memory. And Penny, the face of that dream, was left holding the pieces. He tried to reinvent himself. He worked harder than anyone, thought through rehab, pushed through pain, but the spark that made him special, that effortless glide, that fearless creativity, it just wasn't the same. The press started to question him. Is he done? Was he overrated? They forgot how young he still was. They forgot the brilliance that came before the bruises. But Penny didn't quit. He never did. He went to Phoenix, then New York, still chasing that feeling, that moment when the court belonged to him again. And every so often, you'd catch a glimpse of it. A flash of the old Penny, a smooth crossover, a perfect pass, a reminder of what once was. But the truth was impossible to ignore. The knees that once carried him to the stars could barely carry him up the stairs. And yet, even in the quiet fade of his career, there was something beautiful about the way he kept going.
Because for Penny, basketball wasn't about fame or legacy anymore. It was about love. The same love that began on those cracked Memphis courts was still there, still burning, even as the world moved on. Sometimes, greatness isn't measured by how high you rise, but by how you stand when everything falls apart. For years, the world knew Penny Hardaway as the man who could have had it all, the superstar who was supposed to rewrite the game, until his body said otherwise. But the story didn't end under bright lights or roaring crowds. It began again, quietly, in Memphis, the same streets that raised him, the same gyms where his dream began. After the NBA, many players chase new things. Businesses, media, nostalgia tours. Penny? He chased purpose. He went home. In 2011, he returned to East High School, not as a player, but as a mentor. The school was struggling. The kids were losing direction, and the community needed more than just talent. It needed hope, and that's exactly what Penny brought. He didn't walk in like a celebrity. He walked in like family. He knew what those kids were facing, the pressure, the distractions, the pain of growing up in a world that doesn't always see potential until it's too late. When his childhood friend, Desmond Merriweather, a man battling cancer, asked for help coaching the team, Penny didn't hesitate. He took over when Desmond couldn't. He did it out of love, not spotlight. Together, they turned East High School into a powerhouse. But more than that, they built a brotherhood.
Penny taught those boys the game, yes, but also how to dream, how to endure, how to believe that they were more than statistics or headlines. When Desmond passed away, Penny could have stepped back, but he didn't. He carried on their shared mission, turning grief into purpose, pain into power. By 2018, his impact had caught national attention, not for what he was doing on a court, but for what he was building off of it. Memphis, the city, the heart, the home, called him again, this time not to play, but to lead. He became the head coach of the University of Memphis, the same school that once watched him shine as a player. The kid who once dreamed under flickering streetlights was now guiding a new generation toward their own. And suddenly, everything made sense. The injuries, the heartbreak, the fall, it all led him here. Because Penny Hardaway's story was never about how much he scored. It was about how much he gave. In his players, you can see flashes of the old Penny, the confidence, the creativity, the belief. He doesn't just teach basketball, he teaches perspective. That talent means nothing without discipline. That fame fades, but character doesn't. And when he walks those sidelines, you can almost feel the ghosts of his past watching. The young Penny with the big dreams, the veteran Penny fighting through pain,
the mentor Penny finding peace. He became what he once needed, a guide, a believer, a reminder that sometimes the greatest victories aren't the ones that happen in arenas, but the ones that happen in the soul.
The world once called him a fallen star, but in Memphis, he became something greater, a light that never went out. Legends are often measured in numbers: points scored, awards won, rings lifted, records broken. The headlines tell a story, but they rarely tell the whole truth. Penny Hardaway could have been remembered as one of the greatest players to never fully reach his potential, the prodigy whose career was meant to redefine basketball, but who was slowed by injuries and circumstance. And yet, to remember him only for what he didn't achieve would be to miss the essence of his story entirely, because Penny's true legacy is not in the stat sheets. It's in the quiet moments, the hours spent on cracked Memphis courts, where a boy learned to dream beyond the limitations of his surroundings, the early mornings and late nights when he practiced not for fame, but for love, the love of the game, the love of movement, the love of possibility itself. It is in the neighborhoods where he grew up, where children still tell stories of the boy with the basketball, the one who made dribbling seem like poetry, the one whose smile lit up every gym, every court, every hope. After the spotlight dimmed, Penny returned home, and in that return, he found a kind of fulfillment that no championship or endorsement ever could have offered. He became a mentor, a guide, a living example of resilience. The same hands that once passed the ball with elegance in the NBA were now shaping young players, teaching them not only how to play, but why to play. At East High School, he rebuilt a basketball program from the ground up. The students weren't just learning plays or drills, they were learning discipline, patience, and vision. They were learning to believe, because Penny had shown them that belief is what carried him through the toughest injuries, the deepest doubts, and the harshest critics. He spoke not with prideful boasts, but with quiet authority. He shared his story not to impress, but to inspire.
"I fell harder than you can imagine," he would say, "but I kept standing. You can too." It wasn't always easy for the players to understand. Some came from neighborhoods where failure felt permanent. Some had given up on their dreams before they even began. But Penny's presence was a constant reminder. Greatness isn't about perfection. It's about persistence. It's about showing up when the world has counted you out. When he became the head coach at the University of Memphis, the impact multiplied. He wasn't just shaping athletes. He was shaping lives. Young men who once believed the world had no place for them found guidance, purpose, and hope under his watch. Every game became a classroom, every practice a lesson in resilience. And yet, even as he gave everything to others, he never lost the magic that had defined him as a player. Occasionally, you'd catch glimpses of the old Penny, a no-look pass during a scrimmage, a smile that seemed to say, "I still remember how it feels to play like this." Those fleeting moments reminded everyone around him that the true gift isn't in the scoreboard or the accolades. It's in the joy, the creativity, the love that you carry and pass on. The city of Memphis, once a backdrop to his rise and fall, became the stage for his redemption. Not redemption in the sense of regaining lost fame, but redemption in the sense of purpose fulfilled. He returned to the place where his dreams began, and in giving back, he completed the cycle. Perhaps that is the lesson Penny Hardaway leaves us all. Greatness is not measured in how high you rise, but in how deeply you touch the world, how gracefully you endure your trials, and how willingly you lift others as you climb. Even in retirement, he continues to inspire. Every player he coaches carries a piece of his story with them. Every young athlete who walks onto a Memphis court is reminded that talent alone is not enough. What matters is courage, patience, and the willingness to keep moving forward when obstacles seem insurmountable.
And in that way, Penny Hardaway's impact is eternal.
The sneakers and jerseys, the highlights and commercials, even the fleeting moments of NBA glory are merely the surface of a life that has always been about something deeper. Tonight, when you close your eyes, picture the streets of Memphis again. A boy bouncing a ball under flickering streetlights, dreams bigger than the cracks in the pavement. A young man in Orlando, orchestrating magic alongside a giant, his laughter echoing across arenas. A mentor, quietly shaping the next generation, finding purpose where others might have given up. That is Penny Hardaway. The man, the legend, the teacher, the boy who dreamed on a dusty court, the star who captivated the world, the mentor who returned home to light the path for others. Penny Hardaway may have left the NBA spotlight sooner than anyone expected, but he never truly left the game. It lives in him, in his players, in the neighborhoods he touches, and in every heart that dares to believe that falling does not mean the end of the story. Magic isn't about never breaking. It's about how you rise when the world tries to break you, and in that, Penny Hardaway will always shine, not just as a player, but as a reminder that true greatness is measured not in what you achieve for yourself, but in what you leave behind for the world.